Yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. I'm really excited to talk about oral health. I know it's a passion of yours, and we've had prior conversations about it. So I'd love for you if you wouldn't mind just introduce us, let us know who you are and kind of how you came into starting Primal Life Organics as a passion.
It's Primal Life itself started because back in, it's 2007 now. I graduated from anesthesia school. I'm a nurse anesthetist. And my fiance at the time, husband now, and I went to get married, and we went to Fiji because we figured we're going to start a family. I was turning 40 at the time, and we knew we wanted to start a family, so we wanted to go somewhere really cool. And we got pregnant on the honeymoon. And when I got back to the United States, started work as a nurse anesthetist, at week 7, I miscarried. And it kind of just took us both back because we were both healthy. This was before paleo, but we were still very healthy, worked out. As a nurse, I knew that miscarriages can happen for a lot of reasons, but we really took a deep dive into our environment. And it was at that time that, we changed our laundry detergent, we changed our cleaning supplies. Never dawned on me that my skin and body care products were contaminated with just toxins, neurotoxins, cancer-causing ingredients. And so we got pregnant again right away. And that's when I realized, as I was getting ready for work one morning at week 7 of my new pregnancy, and I looked down at a moisturizer and I realized that it was full of toxins. And it is at that moment that I disconnected from what I call big Cosmo, and I started creating all of my skincare and dental care products. So that's how Primal Life was really born. And then, it just grew. I started making it for myself. People started loving it. I was giving it to friends. And then when my daughter was a year old, we launched Primal Life.
Awesome. So tell me, your experience in the oral health field really started out of a personal need. What do you have a story you could share with us in terms of cavities? I know we talked a little bit about that, and I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah. My daughter at the age of 2, everything like wrapped around my daughter with this whole company. It was just interesting. But at the age of 2, Mia had a tooth that came in, and I love to use props. So I've got my big tooth here. Everybody can see it. She had a tooth come in. It was a molar, way in the back, a molar that needed to, the lifespan of that molar was going to be until she was around 12 years old. And the molar came in, and when we were brushing it, my husband noticed something was wrong with it. So he called me over. I took one look at the tooth, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. So we took her to the dentist. He took one look at it and said, that's a natural defect. It's a natural cavity. It occurred during development in utero, which I didn't even know could happen as a nurse. I had no idea. And I guess this can happen typically when mom has some sort of like infection or has a fever or high stress. And at the exact time that tooth is being developed, usually it happens to both teeth because 2 teeth, one on each side, is being developed at the same time. But luckily, only one of hers was affected. But he said, I'll never forget it, because he said, we'll put a temporary filling in it because she's only 2. The temporary filling is only going to last 2 to 3 months. Every time it falls out, we'll decide if now is the time to pull the tooth. So he said, most likely the tooth will be pulled by the time she's within a year. So by the time she turns 3. And as we were leaving the dentist office, they put a temporary filling in. She did fine. We're leaving the dentist office. He knew I was a little frazzled by the whole thing. So he said, don't worry, Mom. We put a temporary filling in, and now we just hope for the best. And I just thought, there is no way this mom is going to hope for the best. So that's when I did my research. I went home. I'd already been making skincare products and face products. And I just went home and I started researching oral health and, the best way to protect the teeth and healthy gums. And I was astounded by what I discovered, which was Dr. Weston A. Price. And I know you're familiar with him. And he was a dentist, early 1900s. I always say way before his time, because his research is things that a lot of us know, But the majority of the public out there have no idea that this all was discovered way back in the early 1900s. The link to cavities, the link to gum disease, the link to heart disease and Alzheimer's, the link of sugar to all of this, all the inflammatory processes that happen inside the mouth. He discovered all of that. And he discovered what really makes sense, what works inside the mouth, what needs to happen to keep the mouth healthy. And so I took his research, and that's what I used to develop my entire dental program to keep the mouth healthy as the basis of internal health. Oh, and Mia, by the way, to end that story, I always forget to end the story. So I created my dirty mouth tooth powder. We'll get into like what good dental products look like, but I created that. We used that on her. That tooth that was supposed to be pulled within a year fell out naturally at the age of 12. I got the whole entire lifespan of that tooth. I was only aiming for 1 year and 1 day. I thought if I get that tooth 1 year and 1 day, I'm good. But it lasted, that tooth stayed in place, the lifespan of the tooth. And then the actual filling that he put in, that first filling that was supposed to fall out in 2 to 3 months, was in place when the tooth fell out. She never had any other dental work done. And the tooth had remineralized over that filling. It had actually put in minerals in place to protect that filling so that bacteria couldn't get underneath the filling, making it needed to be replaced or pulled within a year. So we had great success with that tooth.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, we always hear, you get, if you have a cavity, either you've got to fill it, or if it's bad enough, the tooth has to come out, or there needs to be a root canal. I mean, there's this kind of traditional mantra that so many people have told, and it reminds me a lot of medicine, like traditional medicine versus functional medicine. It's like you get a diagnosis, and then somebody wants to prescribe you a medicine to treat your symptoms without asking why the symptoms exist in the first place. And that's really what I would love you to go into this evening as well, a little bit about the causation. Like what are people's options, and what can they do if they do have cavities and they're being told that they need a procedure, or they need to have, a bunch of toxic compounds possibly embedded in their mouth? Because that's one of the other things. Like when people come to see me, we test them to look at what they're allergic to before we send them to a dentist to say, hey, fill them with this, right? Because if they're allergic to the filling ingredient, that can be a trigger for an autoimmune process as well. So talk to me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. And your mouth, like, I always call it mouthing off with Trina. This is one of the reasons. Your mouth is so close to your brain, your pineal gland, your salivary glands. There's a lot of stuff that's directly connected or very close to your mouth. So making sure that your gum tissue is healthy and that your teeth stay healthy is extremely important, and using the right products, getting rid of the toxins. If you have sensitive teeth, or you have, you're in need of a cavity, like if your dentist tells you that you have a cavity that needs to be filled, what I usually tell my customers, of course, I can't diagnose, I can't, tell them what to do. But when I give them my suggestion, I always tell them, if there's no pain or very little pain, if it's tolerable and there's no infection, then you have the time or the chance to be able to heal that tooth or to remineralize the tooth. And the same goes with the gum tissue. I've had customers of mine that have had really bad receding gums, needing gum grafts, according to their dentist. And they've used some of my treatments. I have a red and blue LED light that we can talk about. That the red light is so good inside the mouth. It increases blood flow, reduces inflammation, increases collagen production, that within a couple months, I know one person who went to the dentist, had really bad, they were talking gum grafts, gum tissue grafts. And that's to protect the roots of the teeth, protect against bacterial infections and things like that. But within about 3 months, she was going every 3 months because everything was really going downhill fast. Within 3 months, the only thing she changed was using red light therapy. She didn't change anything else. And within 3 months, she was 70% improved on her gum tissue. Was no longer a threat of needing a gum graft. Her gum tissue was actually starting to regenerate and looked much better, wasn't inflamed. So I usually say that there's, just knowing that there's an option out there, that there are things that you can use that are natural and that will work inside your mouth to change the environment inside the mouth. And I do have a presentation, like some slides that we can go into that will have a little more, you'll get to watch something graphically that has diagrams and things like that. But it really is about the environment inside your mouth. And if we don't change the environment inside your mouth, it doesn't really matter what we do with the tooth that's having problems, because you're only going to cause problems in everything else. Your gum tissue and the other teeth are in the same environment. So acids are really bad, and acidic environment's really bad. And unfortunately, in this day and age, almost all of our food is acidic, especially gluten and processed foods are acidic by nature. Even red meat, even if you're eating a healthy diet, red meat, is acidic by nature. Most coffee, tea, drinks, things like that are all acidic. Anything with sugar is going to be acidic. It's going to feed the bacteria. And even if the food isn't necessarily acidic, but has sugar in it, that feeds the bacteria then that creates lactic acid. And then you end up with the acids inside the mouth. So we need to do something to shift from an acidic mouth over to an alkaline mouth. An alkaline mouth is what's going to prevent the growth of the wrong bacteria. It's going to help with the gums healing and prevent the gum breakdown, the gum tissue breakdown as well. I always tell people, I suggest if you get, information from a dentist like that says you have a couple cavities, they need to be filled, or your gum tissue is not looking so well, I usually suggest getting a second opinion from a biological dentist, because a biological dentist is going to be more in tune with whole body health and how that relates to your whole body and what you can do, what types of things you can do to help prevent the worst case scenario from happening, or even just getting a cavity filled. Or if you do need a cavity filled, using, like you were talking about, materials that are not toxic to the body, that are more compatible with the body. The problem is these things off gas, metals off gas, and things like hydrogen peroxide can break down or cause them to basically fumigate, and we don't see it, you don't taste it, you don't really smell it. But especially amalgam or the metal fillings, anything with peroxide, if you're brushing with peroxide, using whitening gels that have peroxide in it, it vaporizes the metals and they enter your body through your breath, because of course your mouth is connected to your nose, which is connected to your sinuses, which is connected to your lungs. You ingest them, connected to your gut, and then as well as your bloodstream. If they get into your gum tissue, it goes directly into your bloodstream, which then travels throughout the body, because your bloodstream inside your gum tissue is going to travel back to your heart, which then pumps it everywhere, which is why the mouth is connected to every organ. It's the bloodstream is going directly back to the heart to be pumped to the brain, to the lungs, to the kidneys, everywhere. So that's why it's really important inside the mouth. And then with the pineal gland and the salivary glands, of course, that's extremely important in whole body health.
Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.